U.S. Navy's feared LCACs in action. During an intense beach landing, there is a moment just before dawn when the surface of the ocean seems to boil. No hull cuts through the waves. No keel displaces the water. Instead, something impossible happens. A 40-ton vessel rises on a cushion of air and simply glides across the sea as if gravity itself had granted an exception. This is the landing craft air cushion. The United States Navy calls it the LCAC. Adversaries who have watched it come ashore call it something closer to a nightmare. To understand why this machine unsettles military planners around the world, you have to understand what it refuses to do. It refuses to be stopped by geography. Roughly 70% of the world's coastlines are considered unsuitable for a conventional landing craft. Coral reefs, mudflats, mangrove shallows, steep shingle beaches. These are natural fortifications that have protected coastlines since before gunpowder existed. A traditional landing craft draws several feet of water and needs a gentle, obstacle-free approach. Defenders know this. They plan around it. They fortify the 15% of beaches that boats can actually use. The LCAC erases that math entirely. Because it rides on a cushion of pressurized air rather than displacing water, it can cross reefs, sandbars, and shallows that would tear the hull off any conventional craft. And when it reaches the shore, it does not stop. It keeps going, up the beach, over dunes, across marshland, delivering its cargo far past the waterline onto solid ground where vehicles can immediately disperse. Suddenly, 80% or more of the world's coastline becomes a viable point of attack. For a defending force, that is the stuff of sleepless nights. You cannot fortify everywhere. The LCAC turns the question, where will they land, into a question with no comforting answer. Strip away the spectacle and look at the engineering underneath. Each LCAC is powered by 4 gas turbine engines, adapted from the same aviation technology that powers helicopters. 2 of those engines drive massive lift fans that pump air beneath a flexible rubber skirt, inflating it into a bubble that lifts the entire craft clear of the water's surface. The other 2 turn variable pitch propellers, pushing the craft forward at speeds that leave conventional landing craft looking as if they are standing still. Where an older landing craft might struggle to make 10 or 12 knots, an LCAC skims forward at speeds over 40 knots. Fast enough to water ski behind if anyone were reckless enough to try. That speed is not for show. It is survival. The less time a landing craft spends in the open, exposed final stretch toward a hostile shore, the less time gunners on that shore have to find their range. Inside, the cargo deck is enormous, a flat, open bay capable of swallowing a single M1 Abrams main battle tank, or dozens of Marines with their full combat load, or a battery of artillery, or wheeled vehicles chained down in neat rows awaiting the ramp to drop. The math of amphibious warfare has always come down to one brutal question. How much combat power can you put on the beach in the first 10 minutes? The LCAC answers that question better than almost anything else afloat. It begins inside the belly of a ship most people never see. An amphibious assault ship or dock landing ship, its stern gate lowered, its well deck flooded so that landing craft can float free like animals released from a pen. The crew brings the engines to full power, the skirt inflates, the 40-ton craft rises, hovering, and eases backward out of the well deck stern first before spinning to face open water. From this point forward, everything is measured in minutes and nautical miles because the ship carrying it may be positioned 25, even 50 nautical miles offshore, safely over the horizon, invisible to coastal radar, beyond the reach of most shore-based artillery. That distance is not incidental. It is doctrine. Over-the-horizon assault means the mothership never has to sail into range of coastal defenses at all. The LCACs do the dangerous work of closing the distance, and they do it fast enough that by the time a defender identifies the threat, the window to react has nearly closed. This is the moment everything has built toward. The beach is no longer a smudge on the horizon. It is close enough to see individual dune lines, individual obstacles, the glint of surf breaking on sand. Inside the cockpit, Elevated above the cargo deck for visibility, the craft's small crew, often just 5 sailors, makes constant adjustments. Air-cushioned vehicles do not behave like boats. They drift, they yaw, they respond to crosswinds in ways a hull in water never would. Piloting one well, especially in the final chaotic seconds of a beach approach, is considered one of the most demanding skills in naval aviation adjacent service, blending seamanship with something closer to flying. And then, no slowing, no grounding, no stall. The craft crosses the surf line at speed and simply keeps moving, carrying its momentum straight up onto the beach and beyond, delivering its cargo not at the waterline, but well inland, onto solid footing, ready to fight. The ramp drops. Tanks, trucks, and Marines pour off in a tightly choreographed rush, scattering immediately to avoid presenting a single target. Within moments, the LCAC itself is already turning, already accelerating back out to sea for the next wave. It does not linger. Lingering is what gets landing craft killed. In an era where potential adversaries have invested heavily in coastal missile batteries, radar networks, and layered shore defenses meant to keep American forces far offshore, the value of a craft that can approach fast, low, and from almost any direction has only grown. Amphibious assault use. Assault has always been among the most dangerous operations in warfare, a fact written into military history from Gallipoli to Normandy to Incheon. The LCAC does not eliminate that danger. Nothing can, but it compresses the most vulnerable phase of the assault, the slow, exposed final approach, into a fraction of the time it once required. That is the quiet, unglamorous truth behind the spectacle. Speed is armor. Unpredictability is armor. A craft that can cross a coral reef a defender assumed was impassable, at 40 knots, under cover of darkness, delivering a tank onto dry ground before the alarm is even fully sounded. That is not just an engineering marvel. It is a fundamentally different equation for anyone trying to defend a coastline. The landing craft air cushion does not look like much on paper. A hovercraft, essentially, dressed in olive drab and gray. But on the morning of an amphibious assault, riding a cushion of air across a beach that was never supposed to be reachable, it becomes something else entirely. A door that was not supposed to open. A threat that cannot be planned around. And for the defenders watching it come ashore, that has always been the most feared thing of all. Not the size of the machine, but the sheer number of places it can appear.